If you think justice is always blind, wait until you hear this shocking tale. When cops humiliated a woman by shaving her head, they had no idea she was the very judge about to decide their fate. Stick with me till the end, because this story will twist in ways you never saw coming, and don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories like this one. Once in a mid-sized American city known more for its history than for its present, a series of events unfolded that would leave the police department, the media, and the public in utter disbelief, because it wasn't just another abuse of power or another story of misconduct swept under the rug, but rather an extraordinary instance where arrogance collided headfirst with irony and turned into poetic justice. Though for the people involved, it was anything but amusing at first, and it all began late one humid summer evening when Judge Mariah Carter, a respected African-American jurist in her early 40s, decided to do something she hadn't done in years. Leave the courthouse after an exhausting weekend drive without her security detail, wearing simple casual clothes, her natural hair tied loosely under a scarf, her demeanor that of an ordinary citizen who wanted nothing more than peace of mind. But fate had other plans, because not far from the courthouse, two police officers, Detective Hale and Officer Riker, both known for their cocky behavior and aggressive tactics, were patrolling in a squad car when they spotted Mariah walking back from a small community center where she had just spoken to young students about perseverance, law, and justice, and though she looked familiar, neither officer recognized her without her robes or professional attire. Instead they saw only a black woman walking alone in a neighborhood they considered suspicious, and their egos, sharpened by years of unchecked authority, made them see her not as a citizen, not as a community leader, but as a target for intimidation. So they pulled over, flashing their lights unnecessarily, making a scene, and approached her with the smug confidence of men who believed their badges were shields against accountability, asking for identification with tones dripping in disdain. And though Mariah calmly explained she had just left the community center and was headed to her car, her words seemed to evaporate in the heat of their presumption, because Hale, who always liked to escalate situations, decided she was being uncooperative, and signaled to Riker, who smirked and said maybe she needed a lesson in respect, and before she could respond, they handcuffed her roughly, ignoring her protests, ignoring the onlookers who filmed with their phones, and shoved her into the back of the car under the flimsiest pretense of resisting arrest. Yet the real humiliation was still to come, because instead of booking her formally, they drove her to a precinct notorious for its rough treatment of detainees, where Hale suggested they teach her a lesson she won't forget, and in an act so bizarre and cruel it would later stun the nation, they forcibly shaved off her hair, mocking her heritage, her identity, her dignity, laughing as clumps fell to the floor, completely unaware that the woman they were degrading was none other than Judge Carter, the very presiding judge set to oversee their misconduct hearing scheduled the following week, a detail they might have remembered had they respected her as a human being, because her name was already on the docket, connected to a case involving their excessive use of force. Yet their arrogance blinded them, and when they finally released her, shaken but burning with controlled fury, she didn't scream, didn't curse, didn't break. Instead she left silently, her scalp bare, her eyes holding the quiet fire of a woman who knew her moment of justice would come not in the streets but in the courtroom where she held the gavel. And when the day arrived, the courtroom was packed with reporters, activists, and legal observers, all aware of the tension surrounding the misconduct charges against Hale and Riker, but none prepared for the shocking reveal that awaited them, because as the bailiff announced, "All rise for the Honorable Judge Mariah Carter," the doors opened, and she entered wearing her robe, her head uncovered, displaying the freshly shaved scalp that turned every whisper into stunned silence, and the officers who had humiliated her went pale as recognition struck, realizing too late who she was, their mouths slightly open, their bravado collapsing like brittle walls under a storm, while she ascended the bench with the calm authority of a woman who knew the weight of the law was about to shift entirely against them. And in that moment, the balance of power reversed, for the ones who thought they could strip her dignity were about to face the full consequence of justice, not just legal but poetic, because she refused to recuse herself, declaring firmly that impartiality did not mean silence in the face of truth. And though their defense attorneys objected, the evidence was overwhelming, not just from witnesses and footage of their previous misconduct but also from the viral video of their shaving incident, which had exploded online once a bystander uploaded it, sparking outrage across the country, making them the faces of systemic abuse. And Mariah, maintaining composure, presided with fairness, never letting personal pain warp the process, but every word she spoke carried the weight of lived experience, and every objection she overruled reminded the courtroom that justice wasn't abstract. It was human, it bled, it suffered, it endured, and now it demanded reckoning. So as the trial unfolded, Hale grew defensive, trying to spin the act as standard procedure, while Riker nervously admitted they had taken things too far. But the damage was irreversible, because the jury, composed of ordinary citizens, could see the power dynamics clearly, could see the arrogance, the cruelty, the racism etched into the case, and after days of testimony, when the verdict was read, guilty on multiple counts of misconduct and abuse of authority, the officers sat broken, their careers over, their reputations ruined, while Judge Carter, in delivering their sentence, spoke words that would be quoted for years. "You thought stripping me of my hair would strip me of my dignity, but all you revealed was your own disgrace, and today, the law answers not just for me, but for every citizen you ever demeaned," and the gallery erupted in applause, not out of disrespect for the court but out of overwhelming relief that, for once, the system did not protect the abusers, and though Mariah later admitted in private that the ordeal had scarred her, it also strengthened her resolve, because she had turned pain into precedent, humiliation into history, and while Hale and Riker appealed unsuccessfully, she continued her work, becoming not just a judge but a symbol of resilience, a reminder that no matter how high the walls of arrogance, truth eventually breaks through, and the story didn't just end there. Because activists used her case to demand reforms, communities rallied around her example, and even those who doubted the system began to believe change was possible when individuals refused to be silenced. So in the end, what began as a cruel act of humiliation transformed into a defining moment of justice, one that no one who witnessed it would ever forget, and one that still resonates as proof that even when justice is blind, it sometimes sees more clearly than anyone expects.